What's up, Dodger fans, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Klein Dodgers podcast, your Los Angeles Dodgers World Series champions for 2024. Thank you guys for listening. Kevin Klein speaking. We're presented by TickPick and Fansided. You guys have heard from me the last week or so in the offseason, but Jake Reiner's back, and I want to get his thoughts on how his offseason's been going so far, because I think the last time we talked, the Dodgers had just clinched the World Series title. Jake, what's new? What are your thoughts on the Dodgers right now? And go for it.
The offseason has been great so far, Kevin. Thank you so much for asking. So yeah, I went both Kevin and I we didn't end up linking up, but we both went to the parade. And it was just, I got a horrible spot. I didn't really see much. I saw the buses zoom by, but the problem was we were in between two like skyscrapers, so it was like a very short window from what we could see. But I saw Kershaw, so that was pretty cool. I just think that being there was kind of the best part. Amazing. Of course, I watched all the speeches at Dodger Stadium. I realized that if I had to do it over again, I probably would have gotten tickets to that instead. Just the parade was fine, but I feel like the speeches were the best part of the whole thing. And I'm loving the kind of tour that the Dodgers have been on. Like Freddie Freeman was on Jimmy Kimmel. Jack Flaherty was on with Colin Cowherd. Dave Roberts was on with Mookie Betts. I watched a little bit of that. I just love that Dave is kind of getting to relax. You could really tell that like Dave Roberts, right when the Dodgers won the World Series and Walker Buehler struck out Verdugo, you saw just this release of relief. That's kind of how I read him when he was celebrating initially when the Dodgers won it. Just a huge weight lifted off his shoulders. You can tell just his body language is like, thank God I have one in a full season. Everyone can shut up now. But now it's the off season, and it's fun to talk about all the potential free agents we might get. I have some few thoughts on kind of what team we want to become, but yeah, I'm excited to get into some of these rumors.
I don't know if you agree with this, but it's the most stress-free offseason of our lives.
Oh yeah, I mean,
even after 2020,
we're reigning champs. Like it's
but
the
even
best.
after 2020, it still felt like there was something to prove, and we wanted to kind of run it back. But this offseason for me, it's like whatever happens. We've got Ohtani, we've got Yamamoto, Mookie's in his prime. Would love to bring back Teoscar and a couple other guys, but for the most part, the core is still here, and you feel pretty good about the Dodgers' chances with whatever they do for 2025.
Absolutely. It's such a stress-free offseason when you are the reigning World Series champion, because the joy of winning it all is going to last the entire season. And so we're going to get to bask in that glory for a really long time, which is really nice. The only thing that I care about this offseason, because I know that they're going to go out, they're probably going to get like an Adames, or they'll get that guy Sasaki, or maybe Blake Snell, or re-sign Flaherty, or they may do a number of different things that we'll get into. But the only thing I care about is Teoscar Hernandez. That is the only free agent where I will be upset if we don't get that done. That's the one guy I want on this team. He's a heart and soul kind of guy, and also had a career year as a Dodger, wants to be here. So all of that stuff, that's the one name that I'm looking for. And once we get that, once we secure him, I know Andrew Freeman's going to put together a good team. It doesn't really matter who we go after, because whoever we get is going to be top dollar, and it's going to be top tier talent. But Teoscar Hernandez is the priority for me.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button while you're here. And if you got questions for us, feel free to drop questions below in the chat. We will get to your guys' questions. I've got a binder full of free agents and targets that the Dodgers are linked to. But Jake, what's a name you want to start the show off with?
Let's talk about Sasaki. Roki Sasaki, he just got posted and is a free agent, and everyone is talking about how the Dodgers are the favorites to sign him. And I am very excited for that possibility. I think with Ohtani and Yamamoto coming over last offseason, they are going to be recruiting him hard. And basically, that the Dodgers are going to shell out the most amount of money, if not the most, right up there. But they're also giving him an opportunity to say, hey, we're competing for a title every year. And oh, by the way, we have some of your former teammates already on the team and have already won a title. So the pitch is the easiest pitch that the Dodgers will ever have to do for any free agent. It's just a matter of if Roki Sasaki wants to kind of join this super team, or does he kind of want to chart his own path and go to a team and kind of, build a winner around him.
Yeah. So the Chiba Lot Marines announced a couple of nights ago, and actually our Discord was like the first of any Dodger feed out there to break the news. I was proud of those guys, so we were on it right away. They announced on their social media that they're going to work with Roki Sasaki to get him posted on Major League Baseball. I don't believe the official posting has actually taken place yet, but once it does, I believe the rules are you have up to 45 days to find your Major League Baseball team, or you go back to Japan and you do it all over again for the following season. And so once the posting is official, a team like the Dodgers, they'll have up to 45 days to work out a deal. But what's interesting with Sasaki, as opposed to traditional Japanese players that come over to the U.S., usually you have to wait till you're age 25 and then you can sign for whatever you want, like what Yamamoto did. But because Sasaki's only 23 and kind of breaking the rules, he would have to sign for essentially bottom league minimum. And so teams like the Dodgers and the Padres and the Yankees, it comes down to what's in your international signing bonus pool. And all these teams are kind of in the same tier. So there wouldn't really be a bid per se. All the teams are kind of on the same level playing field. But where it gets interesting is, where does Sasaki himself envision himself pitching for the next few years to invest in himself and then become a true free agent in whatever 5-6 years, like Ohtani did with the Angels. And so from what I have heard from all the insiders posting on their pages and writing reports and doing podcasts, is the Dodgers and Roki Sasaki still appear to be a slam dunk league favorites. And it'd be kind of a surprise at this point if Roki Sasaki doesn't sign with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it kind of feels like the Dodgers are lining things up to get Sasaki, since Brandon Gomes said a few days ago they want to do a 6-man rotation. And what better place for Sasaki to go than a team that's ready to implement a 6-man rotation with 2 other pitchers that are going to be needed to be on that schedule, with Ohtani when he's ready to pitch and Yamamoto.
Yeah, and that was a really good breakdown of the sort of the financial little loopholes there that he is going to have to endure. So it really is about him wanting to pitch where he wants to pitch. And like I was saying, I think the Dodgers have the best like pitch that you could ever want. I mean, it's like literally the world is your oyster if you come here. We're the best. We just won the World Series. We're going to win more. And I believe that too. And so if that's what you want, then it is a slam dunk.
Also, it's not like Sasaki is going to have to worry about a few $100,000 if he's worried about the initial signing of the contract. If you go to the Los Angeles Dodgers, what better place is going to line up the endorsement deals right now than the Los Angeles Dodgers, who I believe on Ohtani himself, I think it was $120 million in endorsements or total revenue they earned off Shohei Ohtani in year 1. And so if you're Roki Sasaki and you're now basically the Los Angeles Dodgers of Japan, why not join the future dynasty potentially in the Dodgers and go with Yamamoto and Ohtani? And now you're kind of looking like you're the World Baseball Classic that took it all home a couple years ago.
Yeah. No, it's the best situation if that's what he wants, if he wants to win. Of course, he can win with other teams. I'm not saying that the Dodgers are the only place to win. I mean, he could easily go to, the Yankees or the Mets, but just the Dodgers have the best template for him, I think.
Maria G, do you think people mean it when they say they're going to boycott baseball if the Dodgers sign Sasaki?
Here's the thing, and this is kind of what I wanted to get into tonight because I've been doing a lot of thinking about, since the Dodgers won the World Series and it was a full season title, which everyone was like saying we couldn't do and we were frauds or whatever. Now that we finally did win one and are primed to go out and pay for these free agents, now everyone's going to say, well, we're just trying to buy championships. So you can't really win as a Dodgers fan. You're either considered frauds when you get bounced in the first round, or you pay for titles when you win. And here's the thing, and this is a point that a lot of people make. All these other owners of all these other Major League Baseball teams can go out and pay these players if they want to. They just don't. I mean, it's that simple. The Pirates and the Rays and all of these teams that are quote unquote small market or, the little guy, they can go out and pay free agents. They just don't. And they don't have the talent and resources in their farm system to compete with the Dodgers, because typically those young teams like the Pirates have a good farm system that they can filter in. I mean, they have had really good prospects come through their system, but they all end up on other teams because these owners don't want to keep their players. They don't want to pay their players to stay, even the homegrown guys. So they end up just leaving in free agency, or because the team is so bad, they end up selling at the trade deadline. So to me, it's like, I don't, if you want to boycott baseball, you're going to boycott baseball, and that's ridiculous and stupid. And if you really love the game, then you shouldn't. But your ire should not be directed at the Dodgers. It should be directed at your own team's owners. That's where it should be directed at.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And it's also kind of funny now that the Dodgers are champions, and what makes it so beautiful is for years all we heard from all the other fan bases is that the Dodgers are incapable of winning a 162 game World Series.
Right.
And now that we've won, so many of the other fan bases want to put so many rules and implementations into effect to prevent the Dodgers from continuing to win. So first it's like we're incapable of winning, and now it's like let's make a bunch of rules to stop these guys from winning. And so I think the idea like a salary cap just seems ridiculous. If anything, I've been saying for a couple of years now, they need a salary floor to keep teams in check, like the Pittsburgh Pirates, Tampa Bay Rays, the Chicago White Sox, you name it, because these teams are more than capable of signing at least a couple marquee free agents if they want to, but they choose not to because they care more about the checks and balances of their payroll.
Right. And look, give credit to the San Francisco Giants, for example, because they go after every free agent out there and they whiff on all of them because they don't want to come to San Francisco. I mean, that's a real problem that they have. It's kind of like an outlier problem. But the Padres spend a lot of money. I mean, AJ Preller, there's not a prospect in their farm system that's untouchable and that can't be used in a trade because we've seen it happen. And he's willing to go out and pay free agents. Look what he did with Xander Bogaerts last year. And the Padres are a really good team. There are so many different teams out there that are kind of doing that are trying to pay their players, but there are too many. There are far more teams that aren't. So there needs to be some sort of incentive to make these teams spend money and not just slash payroll, get rid of players, and then you can't get anybody to come to these games and you don't make money anyway.
Yeah. So let's go back to the subject of Sasaki himself. So it's kind of hard to predict the future, but just based off this guy's raw talent and everything we're hearing, kind of thinking ahead, if the Dodgers do get Sasaki, I'm already kind of circling him in as our second best starter. I think right now Yamamoto has earned the crown to be considered the Dodgers ace just based off who's currently employed. And Tyler Glasnow is a huge question mark. I think he's going to completely change his strategy next season. And who knows what version of Tyler Glasnow we're going to get. I think he's going to care more about staying healthy. And Ohtani coming off 2 elbow surgeries. Who knows what version of Shohei Ohtani we're going to get as well. I think they easily try to ease him in. I think Sasaki is going to be the Dodgers' number 2 if they were to sign him. But I know I'm jumping the gun here.
Yeah, you might be jumping the gun, and I think that if Tyler Glasnow is healthy, he's going to be the number 2, and Sasaki will kind of have to earn that, and we'll see how it plays out as well, and how healthy these guys are.
Dusty Baker has joined us. He was at the World Series a couple weeks ago when the Dodgers clinched it. I wanted to get Dusty's firsthand experience of what that was like, witnessing the Dodgers close it out at Yankee Stadium. Dusty, it's good to see you. How you doing? And I know you came in when we were talking about Sasaki, so if you want to share some thoughts on Sasaki, go for it. But we want to hear as well what it was like watching the Dodgers win that World Series at Yankee Stadium.
Okay, so first of all, kind of a wild story here behind all of this.
Okay. Well, we lost him, I guess.
We lost Dusty, but he'll be back.
I think I'm back.
Yeah, yeah, Dusty. Okay? Dusty, give us a 3, 2, 1, and then go for it again.
3, 2, 1. Does that sound good to you guys? Does that sound better? Okay, good. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. My internet's kind of wild over here, but yeah, essentially I work on all days except for Mondays and Tuesdays, and so Dodgers are up 3-0 in the series, and Eastern time, they win game 3, and I turn to my girlfriend and I say, "Listen, I can't resist. We have to find a way." And so at 3 a.m., the day of game 4, I bought the tickets to fly out of Cincinnati. I live in Louisville, so we drove up to Cincinnati, flew from Cincinnati to New York, landed at 4:00, took the from the airport, took the bus to the subway to the game, went to game 4. We were the problem. We were actually the issue for Dodgers fans. We were there for game 4, and I had to cover an event on the day of game 5. So this is how all this went down. So we go to game 4, game ends, we're upset. We thought we were going to win it all then. And we go to a bar. It was the Billy's bar that's down the street. And so we're there till 3 a.m. We actually had to Uber to the airport at 6 a.m., fly to DC to Cincinnati, drive down. And I had to cover an event the day of game 5. So we weren't in New York, unfortunately, for the championship, the game that actually solidified it. We were the jinx. We were actually the problem, I think. And so Dodgers fans should be thankful that we weren't anywhere near that stadium for game 5, because I don't understand what happened. But my resume now as a fan is brutal. As a reporter, I'm great. I was there for 2020 as a reporter, and I was there for every game during 2020. But the games I've been to as a fan, I was there in 2017 in Houston during the 13-12 game. So that was brutal. And then in 2018, I was in LA for both games against the Red Sox, game 4 and game 5. And now for the 4th time as a fan, I go, and this happened. So we're so thankful, because when we got back, I covered my stuff as quickly as I could on Wednesday night. I'm streaming the game. My girlfriend's at home. She's watching it intensely. Hustle back, able to watch the final 3 innings together with her. And so that's where we got to see them clinch the whole thing. But yes, we dropped an absurd amount of money, more than I probably wanted to be able to fly from Cincinnati, doing all this driving, all this crazy coordination, no sleep. I didn't sleep for 49 hours, I think it was. Yeah, didn't sleep at all. And of course, Freddie Freeman hits that 2-run home run to start things off. And you're like, oh boy, here it is. Buckle it up, baby. And there were Dodgers fans all around us. Like, we were actually in a pretty safe spot at Yankee Stadium. But there were a lot that wanted to pick fights with us. It was crazy. I mean, I have never experienced just straight hostility from a fan base the way that I experienced it there. I think the closest I've ever gotten, and it's not on the same scale, but the closest I think I've ever gotten was basically at a University of Texas game when TCU played them. That's got to be the closest. So this was ridiculous, but so worth it to go. And you mentioned Sasaki. And, everybody's going to talk about Sasaki this offseason, and rightfully so, because it makes too much sense for the Dodgers to sign him. You're talking about a guy that is entering his age 23 season and is pitching this way, throws absolute gas, locates all his pitches, has the potential to be the best pitcher from Japan. I mean, it is insane, the potential that's there. And if they're willing to hand out the cash they gave to Yoshi, I don't see why they wouldn't be with Sasaki.
Signing Sasaki would be the equivalent of the Dodgers landing Paul Skeens, in my opinion. That's how talented this guy is. And he's a game changer. He's the best pitching free agent out there, assuming the posting goes well. More impactful than Blake Snell, more impactful than Corbin Burns. Sasaki is the guy you want. And I could be dead wrong, but I've only seen glimpses of this guy pitch. And from what I've seen, I'm just blown away. And so, rightfully so, there's a reason the Dodgers are all in on this guy, essentially. And I feel pretty good about the chances of us landing this guy. But ultimately, Jake was saying it a few minutes ago, it's where Sasaki wants to go. And if he's like, I want to team up with you, Darvish, because that was my idol, then I get it. But the Padres are the little brothers of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And they had our number during the regular season this year, and they gave us a hard-fought battle, but 24 shutout innings at the end of the day, and Sasaki's not going to help that offense. So let's change it up now. Chris Camello, a guy that I was going to talk about regardless, because the Dodgers are heavily linked to this pitcher. Are there concerns for the asking price for Garrett Crochet? So as everyone probably recalls, the Dodgers were heavily in on Garrett Crochet leading up to the MLB trade deadline, and then talks fizzled out for a number of reasons. Recently, it was reported that once again, the Dodgers are aggressively in on Garrett Crochet along with the Philadelphia Phillies. But I wanted to first get your guys' thoughts on, are you guys back in and interested in acquiring Garrett Crochet? And then we'll get into kind of what it might cost for the Dodgers to pull off a Garrett Crochet. So I'll start with you, Jake. Where are you at with this Crochet stuff?
Don't want him.
Okay.
Don't want him. Didn't want him at the trade deadline. Don't want him now. Too injury prone, and I don't trust that what he did with the White Sox he's going to duplicate with us. I know I had the same kind of take about Michael Kopech, and it turned out really well for the Dodgers, but this guy's injury prone, and I think there are better pitchers out there to pay for. And I think that the Dodgers should definitely get Sasaki or Blake Snell before they get Garrett Crochet.
All right. I will share my thoughts, but Dusty, what about you?
Yeah, I think Sasaki is an obvious number one outside of, I mean, Teoscar to me has got to be the main priority as far as bringing somebody back. But from this perspective of Crochet kind of coming into the fold, it feels like Tyler Glasnow 2.0, and that's nothing against Glasnow. It's the idea that you're bringing in a guy that maybe the innings don't necessarily present themselves as something that's favorable for a long-term. 162 is something I don't see him surviving well in, and he's got the same exact arm angle mechanics to that of Chris Sale. And you're talking about one of the least durable pitchers. Yes, very effective, but if you want a durable pitcher, I'm a little concerned about that because that's been the Dodgers' issue.
Dusty,
right?
let me ask you this: who's going to win
ready.
the Cy Young this year?
It's going to be Sale, but you also didn't get to see him pitch in the postseason. So, that's something that I think I have a problem with is I'd rather have a guy that I know will be there when October comes around also. And that was the biggest concern for Dodgers fans was not so much getting through the 162. It's, are you going to have healthy guys that you can trust that are going to be there in October, right? And so that's my one concern is if you give Crochet a ton of money, what if Glasnow isn't the same guy? And I know you guys were talking about him just a little bit there. What if Glasnow doesn't return to form and then Crochet does, he hasn't logged a ton of innings. So that's just a concern to me, that the longevity aspect. And yes, he is young. That is one thing that is a positive here. He is heading into his age 26 season. So that's something that favors him. And I recognize that. I also, though, am concerned about the durability. I just haven't seen enough from that perspective. And I think there's a reason why you saw, I mean, the White Sox had nothing to play for. So obviously they weren't going to have him go deep in games late in the season for no reason to burn his arm out. But I do wonder is there something to be said about the fact that he may just not be durable long term? So that's a concern for me. Is he effective? Yes, he's incredibly effective.
Here are my thoughts. So you mentioned his age. That's 1+ for me. He's only 25. Second of all, I feel like the Dodgers are going to add a left-handed starter no matter what. We know Blake Snell is probably the top guy, and for me, Blake Snell would be my number one. But if it's Max Fried or Garrett Crochet, I'm taking Garrett Crochet. First of all, he's younger, like I just talked about. Last season for the White Sox, he had a 3.58 ERA, which is, so, but he had a 2.69 FIP. And normally we laugh at the AL Central, but last season, 3 teams from the AL Central made the postseason, and Garrett Crochet was doing this on the Chicago White Sox. I feel like a guy like Garrett Crochet, if he gets under the Dodgers pitching staff and development, he's going to flourish and get better with the Chicago White Sox. And I agree with you, Dusty. The Chris Sale comp is 100% spot on. And there probably are going to be years where you lose into injuries, but there are also going to be years like 2018 where he kind of carries you to a World Series championship. And I think that's the risk I'm willing to take with a guy like Garrett Crochet, who probably is going to amount to a Chris Sale. I mean, 209 strikeouts across 146 innings thrown. I'm not passing on that. So that's my early thoughts on Garrett Crochet. And so kind of where we can segue into that is if the Dodgers are going to pull this off, what's it going to cost?
Oh, goodness, man. I mean, you're talking with Sasaki, I think you're going to have to look at a modeled contract of what you gave Yoshi and then up it even more because Sasaki's, and I think most people would agree, he's got to be the most desirable pitcher for that matter outside of Japan, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's got to be the guy, and he's
Garrett
more
Crochet's
expensive.
trade costs.
Yeah, as far as when you look at Crochet, though, the difference is you're going to be having to pony up players, and you're also going to have to extend him, in my opinion. So there's 2, I guess, issues with that, and that's half my problem there. Because Crochet wants sustainability, which is why the White Sox had such a hard time trading him away in the first place. And so the reason why I mentioned Sasaki is because you have to realize you're already spending money on Sasaki. Like we're assuming they're going to be getting Sasaki, right? Well, you don't want to trade for a guy like Crochet and then not have him for the long term. And he's going to cost you money to extend. And that's something that was a parameter that he wanted to bring up. So you have to remember that you'd be going for both of those assets, and you're talking trade assets and then extension too. And that's the concern.
I do think the extension would be a definite requirement, but I also feel like this is a great opportunity for the Dodgers to kind of clean house a little bit. You can throw Gavin Lux into this trade. You may be able to package a guy like James Outman, who seems to have lost the role with the Dodgers. And then maybe this is where Bobby Miller needs a change of scenery. You package Bobby Miller in this Crochet trade, because if you sign Sasaki and you get Garrett Crochet, you don't really need Bobby Miller anymore. And then you might have to throw in a couple top prospects like Alex Freeland. And maybe when we get to the Adames talk, Alex Freeland is irrelevant because they'll have Willy Adames as their shortstop. And then you're probably going to have to throw in another couple pitchers. Maybe this is where they just pull the plug on Nick Frost, if he has any value at this point, or they throw in Robleski or something. But personally, I'm not too worried about the cost for Garrett Crochet at this point. I feel like the Dodgers are in a prime position where they can pony up a few of these guys. And as long as it's not Dalton Rushing, who seems untouchable at this point, or Josue DePaula, or maybe even Jackson Ferris, I'm pretty much good with trading anybody for Garrett Crochet, because I understand the injury concern and durability risks, but I feel like the Dodgers with the 6-man rotation are going to be able to make this work.
Look, here's my question. Why trade for Crochet when you can sign Blake Snell or Max Fried? Those guys are both really good left-handed pitchers, and you don't have to give up anything to get them. You know, why wouldn't you want to use your draft capital for maybe something else that you can't get in free agency? I'm just saying that the Dodgers have enough money to buy pretty much all these free agents and still be fine.
Oh, I prioritize Blake Snell 100%, but even you can question his durability issues. Max Fried, I'm putting behind Garrett Crochet at this point. I mean, to give a pitcher probably 160 million, I think Max Fried's turning 31 next season, has had multiple arm issues as well at this point. And let's not forget, has an ERA over 5 lifetime in the postseason. If people are going to bash Kershaw and all of a sudden turn a blind eye to that and say they want Blake Snell, that seems like major hypocrisy.
Why is it?
Or, I mean, Max Fried.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say because Blake Snell.
No, I meant Max Fried.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm not, and I'm not advocating for Max Fried here. All I'm saying is that wouldn't you rather go on the free agent market and sign these guys and not give up any draft capital? If they get injured, they get injured, but at least you didn't surrender top prospects to get them. I feel like those moves are should be saved for the deadline as opposed to the offseason where there's the free agent pitching market is so rich right now.
Yeah, I think the Crochet situation, the Dodgers just may not be the right partner is another thing for me. I don't know from the White Sox perspective, they're going to want to move Crochet, right? That they're going to want to move him if they get tangible assets that are long term. I don't think that they're going to want to go for guys that are reclamation projects necessarily. So you're going to have to pony up top prospects. I think Josu DePaulo would have to be involved in it most likely. I mean, you would have to pony up a top guy, a top gun, and as much as people don't want to believe that's going to be. You got to give up a key piece to get a key piece because Crochet is being given right now. His contract states only 2.9 million for this upcoming season. So a team that's looking for maybe an economical standpoint and they have assets as far as prospects are concerned, that would be the right partner. For the Dodgers, the problem is that they would have to trade for that said piece, give up a top prospect on top of that. And then, as I mentioned, Crochet is going to want to be able to be extended too. So if you're willing to give up top prospects and then a long-term extension, that's the issue for me, because I just think the Dodgers have so many, as far as long-term contracts are concerned, I think you'd rather save your assets a little bit in that respect. And kind of like what Jake was saying, instead of giving away current assets, there are guys you can go out there and just hand a blank check for probably less years.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. That's the difference.
My counter, and there's both sides to the argument, but the counter is sometimes I feel like we sit on our prospects too long, and then we say
That's
we
fair.
have no place for them, and now all of a sudden they're worthless, and
They lose value.
I think there's two sides to the coin, and I think we just value Crochet differently at this point, and I think that's where the difference of opinions might lie. I'm just higher on Crochet, I think, at this point, and I'm comfortable giving up the prospects. I don't think it would cost DePaula. I could be wrong. Maybe Zaire Hope is someone they have to throw in the trade, who seems to be
that would make sense.
A rapidly high rising prospect, but it would cost a lot. No doubt about it. It just boils down to, is this the time to clear up some roster space and get a guy like Crochet, or you go the easy way out and maybe overpay for Fried? You can't go wrong either way, I suppose. Okay.
Agreed on that.
So I want to get to some questions. Dennis Gonzalez, is Crochet worth getting more? Is Crochet worth getting more that offering Flaherty a contract?
I look, as much as I like Jack Flaherty, and I think that he deserves his flowers for what he did for the Dodgers in the postseason, I'm not so sure he's going to repeat what he did this year over the next 2 or 3, even 4 years. So I don't know what the value is in signing him. The Dodgers have enough right-handed starting pitching as well. So that's another thing where I would maybe want to go out and try and prioritize left-handed starters. So to me, I don't see it happening, even though I would assume that Flaherty wants to stay.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of see the same exact thing. I mean, Flaherty had some clutch moments this postseason, and people shouldn't ignore that. A lot of people I've seen online, a lot of people talking about how he blew Game 5. It's like you're in the World Series; these things do happen. But there is something to be said about the fact that there are a ton of righties in this rotation. Breaking it up with a lefty would be nice, and you can't guarantee Kershaw will be in that rotation long term. So I do believe a lefty should be the target, and it all goes back to the whole Sasaki talk, because the reality is if they reel in Sasaki here, you're getting a guy that could be a front end righty. And so, yeah, you really need to break it up there with the lefty at that point. So I think just adding another righty on righty, you don't have a lefty to break it up. That's not going to help you. And the Dodgers were fortunate this postseason that didn't really burn them at all. But I do think throwing a lefty in there would be a lot more helpful. And Flaherty was helpful, man. But as to Jake's point, I think you looked at how he did with the Orioles. He really struggled there. There's a lot of highs and lows with him. And I think that's just the pitcher he is, where you don't necessarily know where you're getting game in, game out with him.
Yeah. I think only one of Buehler or Flaherty would come back, not both. Devin
Agreed.
Haas, I'll take this one first. Hey, boys, how bullish are we on Dustin May and Bobby Miller? So on Dustin May, I'm bearish. I'm out on him as a starting pitcher. I would be fine if the Dodgers flip him for some prospects or trade him this offseason. I think his chances of being a starter for the Dodgers are done. He's missed. This is what's kind of mind-blowing. He's been on the IL for the Dodgers the last 4 postseasons. He hasn't thrown a postseason inning since 2020. That's 4 years since Dustin May has contributed in the postseason. Bobby Miller, on the other hand, I'm not willing to write off this guy's career at all. I think he'd be a perfect reclamation candidate in-house for the Dodgers, and I still think the ceiling and talent is there. They just need to figure out what went wrong, whether it's mentally or a mechanical thing. And so I wouldn't be shocked if Bobby Miller has a great bounce-back season next year.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. Dustin May, it's getting a little tiring at this point, and it's unfortunate for him because obviously, he can't do anything about how badly his body gets hurt and injured and all of that. So with that being said, I don't know how much longer we're going to stick it out with him to see if he can come back. He just isn't able to stay healthy. It's a shame too, because he's a really good pitcher. I mean, we've seen what he can do when he's healthy. He can carve up great lineups like the Padres. He might be just a candidate for the bullpen. I mean, if he could stay healthy and be like a high leverage closer or just a high leverage reliever, that would be a sick use of Dustin May. And I think it's something we've all kind of thought ever since, we've seen him pitch. So I would be good to cut ties with him or see if he can develop into some kind of reliever. As far as Bobby Miller goes, I'm with you, Kevin. I think it's too early to write off his career. I mean, his rookie season was pretty impressive. And then this second year was pretty horrific. So I don't know if it's him per se, or it's the mentals going on. It's maybe something between the ears that's going on with him that he's not able to figure out at this point. But I think it is a little too premature to write him off just yet.
Yeah, I echo everything you guys said. And I think starting first with Dustin May, I was literally thinking the exact same thing about how lethal, if he can somehow stay healthy in the bullpen, how lethal he could be in the back end. I mean, the dude has closer stuff, right? Like that fastball, the 2-seam, on good days when he's healthy, that thing is moving like crazy. We've seen those highlights against Manny Machado striking him out. I mean, Dustin May at his best is hard to hit, right? And so I'd actually be really worried about facing him in the postseason. Like, imagine if we go up against the Phillies and the Phillies somehow get a guy like Dustin May. That's like the last guy you want to face in a clutch situation. So he is an asset. I'm not quick to run away from him. I just would rather have an update on his health first, because it seems like we haven't heard from him in 4 years, right? And so he just can't seem to stay healthy. And I think that's half the battle here is there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think that's the big question. Bobby Miller, I will get to see him in we're in November, so I'll see him in 3 months. So I can give you the personal update on where he's at. But one thing that I want to remind a lot of people, in the MLB, there is a trend. Paul Skeens defies this trend. He's the one that you can he's a one of a kind. A lot of young pitchers come up and they struggle immensely. Bobby Miller didn't do that when he first came up. He looked like he could be that guy that could lead the rotation. He's had his battles, right? I look at guys like Corbin Burns and the trajectory that he had. People forget how bad Corbin Burns was when he first came up. They moved him temporarily to the bullpen. The Brewers couldn't really figure out what to do. And then one day it just clicked, an off season, and the guy that they thought they had became the guy that they had. And so I think Bobby Miller is the same type, where the dude throws hard. He's able to locate, and we've seen that he has the potential. Remember the game against the Cardinals where he struck out 11? Like, we know that there is that version of Bobby Miller there. And so the Dodgers have a lot to work with him on this offseason. He's got a lot of work himself, but Bobby's got the resources. I am not worried. I think that he's going to just take some time, and it could be a mental lapse, but the dude's got all the potential to still be in the rotation. So I'm very much still on the Miller train.
All right. We got high demand to talk about Willy Adames. First off, Nicholas Dugan, confidence on the scale of 1 to 10 that the Dodgers sign Adames. Then Ray Kayoza 82 reached out on X. What's the likelihood of the Dodgers signing Willy Adames? And then I just saw MB ask, are you guys in or out on Adames? So people want us to talk about Willy Adames. I'll start with you, Dusty. What are your thoughts on Willy Adames? And do you think this guy makes sense for the Dodgers?
Well, he certainly is a great fantasy baseball aspect and player. I'll tell you that. He's killed me in like every league that I've been in. But the numbers do speak for themselves. Willy Adames has insane power. And we've seen him progressively grow since the Dodgers struck him out to win the World Series in 2020. Fun fact there, he is the guy that struck out in 2020 to win the World Series for us. So, yes, obviously he is a key asset. What I'm worried about is, yes, the Dodgers have unlimited resources, it feels like, but at some point you got to be picky as far as where you want to allocate these resources. Do you go to Sasaki and you have to pay Kershaw on top of this because you're bringing him back is the plan. And then you want to get Teoscar and you want to maybe consider getting Kike. And all of a sudden there's these assets. Buehler comes back. We want to get Fried, or we want to go out and get Crochet. Like, you gotta realize you can't get all of them, right? And so I think the Dodgers are in a position right now where Adames is more of a desire, but not a need. I know that they're talking about moving Mookie into the infield, and I wonder if that means you're moving him to second base and you slide over Rojas for the time being there, and then they make a move if they need to at the deadline. I think the likelihood, I'll give it a 5, maybe 5 out of 10, because there are other teams that maybe have a more pressing need immediately at shortstop versus the Dodgers have enough pieces to get them to the deadline where they then can probably buy at a much cheaper rate and get a piece to come in instead of having to hand out $200 million, which I think Adames is going to command the Dansby Swanson contract. I think that's literally what you're going to be looking for there.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that right around like maybe a 6 or a 7 that the Dodgers sign Willy Adames. I think it's a guy that they've always coveted, and he's certainly the best shortstop on the market right now. So, and the Dodgers need a long-term solution at shortstop, and they've got to make a decision on whether they feel that that is Willy Adames or maybe someone in their farm system. I know we talked about Freeland in the minor leagues. You know, is he the guy? I don't know. They traded away Trey Sweeney to get Jack Flaherty. So, I mean, what is the Dodgers' long-term option at shortstop? I kind of want to transition to this topic because I feel like it's relevant. So the Dodgers are planning to move Mookie Betts back to the infield. I don't love it. I'd rather him be a right fielder, but if this is a decision that he wants, this is something that he's advocating for, which I think it is, then fine. I mean, he's Mookie Betts. He can do whatever the hell he wants. I mean, he's a 3-time World Series champion and a former MVP. What are you going to tell him to do? So if he plays the infield, where are they going to play him? Because I sure as hell don't want to see him at shortstop. I really don't. I think that would be a massive mistake. I think the Dodgers already know that it was a massive mistake when they did it. So that means what? You're going to move him to second base. Okay. Well, what happens to Gavin Lux now? Is he going to be a guy that's going to be on the trade block, or are they going to try him and move him back to shortstop now that he's fully healthy? So there's so many things at play here that they've got to decide what they're going to do, because if they go out and assign Adames, they move Mookie to second base, then that's pretty much the end of Gavin Lux.
I'm going to give it a 7 that the Dodgers signed Willy Adames. Here's what I'm ultimately worried about. What I'm ultimately worried about is that it's Willy Adames or Teoscar Hernandez and
Yep.
not
Same.
and not both. And if I had to have my pick, give me Teoscar Hernandez for all the
Yeah.
reasons we just saw in 2024. But what I feel like the Dodgers want is they want to have their long-term solution at shortstop because they've kind of been missing that the last couple of seasons. And Jake mentioned they've been coveting Willy Adames for a couple years now. They like not only his on the field qualities, but the off the field intangibles as well. And that's why I feel like they really are in on Willy Adames. And correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like they haven't committed a big contract to a starting shortstop since Rafael Furcal back in 2005.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Willy Adames would be the next in line to be a free agent, big free agent acquisition. And so I feel like they want Adames. I'm pretty confident.
Well, maybe. What did they give Hanley Ramirez?
It was a trade and they let him walk.
Trade. Yeah. I
Right.
think
They
they let him
didn't.
walk,
They
right?
didn't sign him. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
crazy to think
Costas
about that.
Eovaldi. But anyways,
Wow. That's
they
crazy.
they want Adames to plug in this solution, and I think they really like the player. And so I think if they want to outbid anyone, I think they're comfortable doing it, which is kind of baffling to think about because they could have just paid Corey Seager what he demanded, and it'd probably be great market value at this point. But we're past that now, and we've won a championship post Seager, so no need to dwell on that anymore. But yeah, I really think they're going to sign Adames. My biggest fear is that they're going to let Teoscar walk, and they feel comfortable doing that because they've got Andy Pages who can play the outfield. They've got Tommy Edman who can play the outfield. The only other question mark is who's playing the other corner outfield spot if they don't sign Teoscar. I mean, Dalton Rushing could be a name, but he's unproven at this point. But at some point, you have to get him in the lineup. But is 2025 opening day the most logistical decision to go that route? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And they're going to have a lot of decisions to make defensively. And I just hope that we're not playing so many guys out of position. Like Mookie Betts is one thing, but you start moving, if you move Lux over to short, and even though they say that it's his natural position, he's still out of position there, in my opinion. Tommy Edman is a great, utility player, and he can play all over the diamond, but is the answer moving him to shortstop every day? I don't know. I mean, he played the position pretty damn well in the postseason and stepped up when Miguel Rojas got hurt. So, and you're not going to have Miguel Rojas be there the entire season. He can't, he can't stay healthy. And who's to say he's going to repeat what he did at the plate this year, next season? I think that was kind of a fluke. So the Dodgers have a big decision to make on what they want to do long-term at shortstop because they proved they could win a World Series without one. So are they going to prioritize that is the question. Do you want to just wait and see what you got next year and wait till the deadline and maybe make a move at the deadline for someone that can help you now and in the future? I don't know, but that's just a big question mark that they're going to have to answer.
Something to keep in mind too is, I kind of was on the same page earlier about wait till the deadline, see what happens. So a piece that is interesting, that this is a 2026 free agent. If the Blue Jays don't go out and do anything, or if they struggle again this year like they did last year, Bo Bichette is going to get traded. Bichette did have a significant down year this year. That is something important to keep in mind. Like, he was unproductive, unhealthy. There were a lot of issues with him this year.
Worse than Gavin Lux.
He was worse than Gavin Lux. So I'm starting it with that. But I do believe in the potential of Bo Bichette, that he may be able to find a way to get back on track. I mean, the talent is obviously there. And if that's the case, he is a 2026 free agent. Outside of that, the only other guy that is considered a shortstop that will be a free agent the following offseason is Trevor Story. Like, you have Luis Rengifo and Willie Castro, and those are like more role players than anything else. But Trevor Story is not the guy that you're going to want. And the Red Sox, I mean, they're going to be in a weird situation.
They'll sign Rengifo 100%.
Yeah, they probably will. But I will say it's Bo Bichette will be out on the market. And so I don't know if Dodgers fans have enough confidence, A, that the Blue Jays will be bad, 2, that they'll have the assets. I think they'll have the assets to get him at the deadline. But 3 being that the Blue Jays would be willing to trade with the Dodgers and would be at that position where they'd be okay dishing off their guys, because they dish off Bichette, they're dishing off Guerrero and everybody else too, I think. So we'll see. There's a lot of different things. Somebody commented saying Trevor Story is glass, and that could not be more correct.
Fair enough. Okay, so we got one more player to talk about, but before I do all that, housekeeping real quick. If you haven't hit that like button, please hit the like button. It means a lot to us. If you're new to the channel and you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit the subscribe button and put those notifications on so you'll get notified when we go live, because we're going to cover all the offseason talk for you guys. And then there's one player I want to talk about, but before I do that, I'm just going to answer one of Javier T's many questions in the chat. What happens to Andy Pages? He was solid. Javier T, I don't think Andy Pages is going anywhere. If anything, I think the Dodgers are going to make him an everyday right fielder, most likely, unless the Dodgers sign, and this is where we transition, Juan Soto. Apparently, according to Mike Rodriguez on X, who's kind of very deep in the international players community, he listed the Dodgers as one of the most aggressive teams in on Juan Soto. And it's kind of interesting because for all the free agent superstars out there, I've kind of never seen a more divided crowd. Maybe Manny Machado, but that's for different reasons. Juan Soto, it seems like there's a pretty big divide of you're either in on Juan Soto or you're completely out on Juan Soto. So let's get your guys' thoughts on Juan Soto.
I don't know. I could go either way on him. He's not a player that I am like salivating for. It's not like the Dodgers need someone like that. They have a number of those players, and I understand that in a lot of ways Juan Soto is one of one. You know, he is his own style of great, and he is great, but he's a terrible outfielder. And the Dodgers don't have that great of a defensive outfield as it stands. If you add him and maybe Teoscar Hernandez, and then Tommy Edman in center, that's not a great defensive outfield. So there's that issue with Juan Soto. I just don't think I hate to say it, but and this is sort of like coming from an arrogant Dodgers fan, because we just won the World Series. We don't need him. I mean, it's like, it would be great to have him. And again, if the Dodgers sign him, I'm not going to be upset by it, obviously, because he's a huge superstar in this league, and any team would be, would love to have a guy like that. But we don't need him. We really don't. He's not what's going to win us back-to-back titles. We're not a piece away from doing that. I think the Dodgers, as it stands, could win back-to-back titles. He's not a need. He is a luxury, I would say, to have.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If the Dodgers sign Soto, I guarantee you MLB commissioner Mr. Manfred would start trying to get signatures to get some sort of, I guess, salary cap, because then people would freak out at that point. I just know. Can you imagine on Twitter, on X, the madness that would be if the Dodgers signed Soto? For that one reason, I kind of want to see it happen, just because I want to see all the dominoes fall and all 29 other fan bases just freak out. Like, knowing what Padres fans and what Yankees fans, Yankees fans would just be upset, but Padres fans would flip. And I would pay money to watch that. But I wouldn't pay $650 million, which is, I think, what it's going to probably cost, or around that, to sign him. Instead, you can pay a fraction of that and get back essentially the key assets that helped you win a World Series this year. And I'd much prefer having Teoscar at a cheaper price, and the guy that clearly was a key to the locker room. There was a video that I watched. I usually don't like going on TikTok, but there was a video I saw on TikTok, and it was, I think, the Bleacher Boys or something like that. These guys do little interviews with players on the field before the games. So one of them interviewed Miguel Rojas, who clearly had a voice in this locker room this year. And he asked, who was the key asset? Who was the MVP of this team to you? And he said, well, Shohei Ohtani was obviously the regular season MVP, and the numbers speak for themselves. But Teoscar Hernandez was the vocal piece in our locker room we needed. And hearing that, I was like, sign him now. give him the check, bring him back to LA. That's priority one. You need Teoscar back because he wanted to be a Dodger. He wanted to win. You saw what he said during the ceremony at the end, that he literally cried in front of people because he was a champion with the Dodgers. Like, that dude belongs in Dodger blue. And instead of signing Juan Soto, who is probably, a lot of people don't like his attitude. I don't think there's that bad of an attitude there. I think he's got a competitive spirit. I don't really look down on him for that. But I look at the price, I look at the cost, and I look at, you already have a guy that clearly fits in this locker room that can give you great production, gets you 33 bombs a year. Like, go get Teoscar now and sign him for less.
I want to hear Kevin's take on Soto, but I just want to say something, Dusty, because I said it before you jumped on, which was, I don't care what the Dodgers do this offseason. I don't care who they get. They're going to fill out this team, and it's going to be a team that's going to compete for another World Series title. The only thing I care about is Teoscar Hernandez being a Dodger. If they get that done, then I can sit back and relax and watch the craziness happen and fill out the rest of that roster. But Teoscar is the priority for me. Okay, Kevin, Soto. Soto. I'm going to guess and say that you're in on Soto and you're a big Soto guy.
Well, if you've been paying attention to me the last 2 years, Jake, I've been the one that's kind of not been in on Soto. I was the one that said we shouldn't blow up the farm for Juan Soto when he was on the trade market 2 years ago. And I still stand by that today.
Okay. Sometimes you flip, though. So you never can be so sure.
You just said it a few minutes ago, and I agree with this point. Like, we just won the World Series without Juan Soto. Why do we need to shell out $600 million or $700 million, whatever it's going to cost, to bring in Juan Soto when I don't feel like, especially offensively, we don't need him to put us over the top. If anything, I would go back to the segments 30 minutes ago. We need to focus on bulking up our starting pitching and invest there.
Agreed.
Juan Soto would be nothing more than a luxury at this point for the Dodgers, not a necessity. And based off the contract values and the personality and clubhouse gel, I'm taking Teoscar Hernandez every single time over Juan Soto, all things considered. So I think the Dodgers need to focus on that aspect. And I'm really not interested in Juan Soto. Tremendous talent. I have huge question marks on how legitimate his age actually is. I feel like he might be 4 or 5 years older than advertised. And ultimately, I'm kind of scared where he's going to age out. Like, I don't think he's going to last in the outfield 5 years from now. He'll probably end up like a first baseman. And near the end of that contract, I would not be surprised if he's looking like Anaheim Angels Albert Pujols out there. I just don't think the Dodgers need to get Juan Soto. And the last few years have proven that you don't need Juan Soto on your team to win a championship. So I'm good. I don't think we need him.
I agree. I don't think we need him, which is a crazy thing to say about a guy like Juan Soto. But I think the Dodgers have needs elsewhere that they need to address, and adding him would be like the Angels signing Anthony Rendon. Just putting a guy in your lineup that really you don't need, and you should be putting your focus elsewhere.
Do you also worry that there'd be too many personalities at a certain point? It could just blow out of proportion if you get too many big names in there.
It definitely could. But if there's one manager I trust to handle all of that, it's Dave Roberts. And so I wouldn't be too concerned about that, because he's literally never had an issue with any player ever. If you want to look back since 2016, I mean, there were a few blips with Puig and Bellinger. He benched him for not hustling, but like that, there was no infighting in the clubhouse because of Dave Roberts. So I wouldn't worry about that. I'm just like, I don't know what he does to this team that isn't already there.
Yeah, he adds bombs, but like, I mean, let's be honest now. You guys have nailed it already. The defense is not there. I think that's a big thing that people overlook with Soto is he plays lazy defense. Why were the Yankees, pretty easy to defeat? Because they didn't play good, clean defense, and they just relied on the long ball. That's literally, I mean, Soto hits. Okay, let's be honest. Like he'll hit for average. He's got pop. We can't ignore that.
And he gets on base.
A lot of money, and he gets on base. He's worth a lot of money for a reason. But to all what both of your points are, like the Dodgers already do that. And as far as loading up in one department, yeah, you're getting stronger, I guess, offensively, and there's no doubt you can't ignore that. But for the cost and considering that you would, in essence, be using that signing to replace Teoscar, I don't think the gap between Teoscar to Soto is 600 or what would be essentially $500 million of a difference worth it. I don't see that being worth it. Like, I would rather give a shorter contract to a guy that wants to be in LA than a guy that's long term. That there is the risk of a big head going to LA or just the limelight in LA. People handle it differently. And Soto, I mean, that there would be a lot of cameras in action on him, and who knows? Who knows? I don't want to worry about it. I just want to get Teoscar back and get the rotation back in order. Let the Yankees and the Mets and the Giants, for all I care, let them fight over Soto. The Dodgers need to take care of what they can, which is bring back a World Series championship roster, and they're right there already, and bring back key pieces that helped you win it. I think that's super important.
All right, we're coming up here at the top of the hour, so I want to make sure if there were any other offseason names or free agents you guys wanted to hit on real quick. I want to give you guys that floor right now to throw those names out there if we didn't cover him yet.
No, I don't. There's no one else that I can really think of right now. But actually, it just came to mind. Kirby Yates is a free agent, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to do some moves like that. Just shore up this bullpen. Get some guys in there to fortify this beautiful bullpen that they've assembled. That's another area that I'd like to address. One other thing that I wanted to throw out there, since we didn't talk about it, kind of flew under the radar a little bit today, is that Clayton McCullough, the Dodgers first base coach, is the new manager of the Marlins. So the Dodgers need a new first base coach. I don't know if we have any thoughts about that, but I know that Clayton McCullough was really well regarded, and I believe he was also an outfield coach, from what I remember, from what I read. So I think he'll be missed for sure. But looks like the Dodgers are looking for a new first base coach.
Yeah. Key asset there. I mean, you get coaching staffs that are going to be revolving doors when you win, and I think that well deserved for him, obviously. And the good news is you still have Dave Roberts in the leadership position. That he's going to find a guy that'll be able to do the job as well. But obviously, congratulations to him for being able to get this job, and I'm sure the Marlins are excited to have a level-headed guy, because that's what he is. And he cares about his family a lot too. That's something that's super important beyond the field. I know that's a priority for him from people that I know him. And really excited for him. And the Dodgers will find a way to replace, but obviously a big move for him.
I don't have anything to add. I groomed fans for this coming a few days ago when I went live talking about Clayton McCullough to the Marlins. So you can go back and listen to that episode for thoughts on all of that. Let's just get into our final thoughts now. And Nicholas Dugan kind of is where I'm at for the most part. Teoscar, Corbin Burns, Adames, and Sasaki would be an A+ offseason. What are your guys' final thoughts, or something you guys want to piece out for the week?
I like we said at the beginning, Kevin, and I'm going to reiterate this offseason is going to be fun. The Dodgers have a number of different directions they could go in, and I would be happy with pretty much all of them. I have full trust behind this front office that they're going to put a good team on the field. I'm done questioning them, because that's all I did with the trade deadline. I was like, did we do enough? It didn't feel like we did. With Jack Flaherty, I thought was the key piece that we got. Didn't know what we were going to get with Kopech or Edman, but clearly I'm an idiot and was wrong. So I'm not going to criticize this front office anymore. We have a title. So I'm just very much looking forward to seeing where the chips fall.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I look at it a very similar way. The way that I looked at it initially, and there is a lot of time from now until the winter meetings, right? You got like a month. We have a lot of time to still soak in what was a championship, and I'm going to keep rewatching the highlights for the rest of my life. But obviously, baseball never ends, right? Like it's a business, and the turnover is quick from going to win a title to how do we repeat. One thing that I want is I want to see the Dodgers with this core roster return, and that includes key pieces that are going to be free agents. Like I truly, to me, a successful offseason would be you getting Kershaw, Buehler, Treinen, Kike, and most of all Teoscar back, and like get a starting pitching piece. I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, run it back as much as you can. I agree with that.
I think that you had the best team chemistry that we've ever seen the Dodgers have, right? That is the best we've ever seen it. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so don't let those key pieces go. I want to see those key pieces return. You can let Flaherty go. He paid his, he did what he needed to do. He helped at the deadline. He helped for the regular season and obviously the postseason. That's okay if he departs. I think that you can move on from there. Let Joe Kelly run. Joe Kelly didn't do anything but mouth off after we won it all, and he didn't do anything to help with that. So very strange that he's the one talking. But outside of that, like, would number one priority be run it back, bring those guys back, and everything else? You get a Sasaki, huge win. You get a Corbin Burns, huge win. You get Juan Soto, the world's going to explode. But like, huge win, no matter what way you look at it. But I would like to see the Dodgers' main priority be get this championship team back together and let's run it back a second time. I really do. And yeah, keep an eye on Twitter, on X, because MLB trade rumors, man, they're going to be popping off. I will say, you guys had mentioned any key free agents that I would like to see. How about Tanner Scott? Just a closer type, a lefty that would fit the bill. He would cost some money. So don't be surprised that you'd have to probably overpay for that. But he is really effective, and adding another lefty to that bullpen to mix and match with Vesia would be fire. And that's a guy that can close out games. But that's just one that kind of stood out to me. Outside of that, go get your guys. Go get the boys. Reunite. Let's repeat, baby.
Love it. No final thoughts, really. Just want to do a quick shout out to all you guys who watched us all night long, and anyone listening on the audio feed. Appreciate all you guys supporting the Incline Dodgers podcast. We're here all off season, and follow us on X. We are on top of all the rumors and who the Dodgers are going after. So if you want to be in the loop of who the Dodgers are pursuing, we got you guys covered. Hit that like button on your way out. Hit that subscribe button, and join our Discord feed if you want to talk to other Dodger fans. Incline Awards, year 4 is coming soon. Nominations should be out there shortly, so stay tuned for all that. I got nothing else. I don't expect any big Dodgers moves until after Thanksgiving, but we'll keep you covered in the meantime. Drop a couple episodes here and there, and we're here for you guys. So we're going to peace out now. Everyone, have a good week ahead, and go